is going on, everybody? King Recon here, finally sitting down in this chair in front of all of you to do our updated favorite arcs in anime and manga video, man. And I have to give a massive shout out to two individuals. Fiji, for bringing up the idea within our peripheral, and then AJ, who is, I think, either today, as of the release of this video, or tomorrow is going to be releasing his list on stream. And so, much love to those individuals for inspiring the fact that we're going to make this updated version of a favorite anime manga arcs list, because we have not done this in a very, very long time. It has been quite some time, man. And so I have here the list. It took quite some time to put this together, but I think I'm satisfied with what the me of today feels is the proper order for these arcs right here. Obviously, some of these are gonna mean just as much to you as they mean to me, but for very different reasons. And so, what I ask is that you give me, of course, your list of favorite arcs, but as well as explanations, if you can, for why certain arcs resonate with you from whatever series that it comes from. Just a quick caveat: I do have a lot of ties. Y'all know it's a me video. When it's a King Recon list video, there is bound to be quite a few ties, but I can't help it, man. This is my video. I can break all the rules I want. You know what I'm saying? So I'm gonna break the rules, because this is already tough enough as it is to rank these, man. But there are just some arcs that mean the same thing to me under the umbrella of a certain theme. And so each and every single one of these choices has like a certain theme attached to them, similar to our character video that I did a few years ago. So what I'm going to do here is relate to you 25 plus arcs that mean something to me in the grand scheme of the anime and manga spectrum. Obviously, this was very difficult for a lot of reasons, but I think the biggest reason is because there's a lot of series that I've read and watched that don't necessarily have an easy way of marking what is an arc and what's not an arc. So for certain stretches of stories that I have no idea what to call the thing, we're just going to call it either by its season or whatever. And then obviously there's some others where I was like, I don't know if this constitutes as an arc or whatever. So just to bring all of that down, if you hear something on here that's like, I don't know, season blank of this, it's because of that. I just wanted to include a particular stretch of an anime or a manga that I had no idea what to name. And so some will be unnamed on here, but you will definitely know where it is that it's coming from. So, starting us off here today, and another thing that I held myself off was, there may be certain series that have multiple arcs, but I'm going to keep them within the same number, right? There's only one series that has multiple entries in like two different numbered rankings, and that's JoJo. And obviously, because of the nature of that series, I was comfortable with doing that because each part feels so different from the other. And so that is the only series where you will see a two different entries from one series. But I tried to keep it to one entry per series / one entry per slot, or one series in like a particular slot, and that could have like multiple arcs from that series, whatever. You know, I wasn't that strict on the rules. So it is one arc, quote unquote, per series, but it's more like one pick per series, because like I said, there will be some that have multiple. So starting us off with the honorable mentions. All of my honorable mentions are from stuff that has released within the last like 10 years that I feel like with time could potentially make this list. Stuff like the current stuff in Akane Banashi, I absolutely adore, and I know that one day down the line it most certainly could end up making a top 25 list. Stuff like the Shinjuku Showdown arc in JJK, along with like Shibuya and Calling Games and all that stuff, when that gets like animated and whatnot. That's another series that I really, really enjoy, especially whenever it's releasing weekly, or whenever it was releasing weekly in the manga and in the anime, whenever that returns. It's just something that I really, really enjoy experiencing, especially with my friends. And so that most certainly could end up being on the list at some point down the line in the future. And then the Deku leaving the Academy arc, man, that stuff was so peak in My Hero. And so those at some point in the future could end up being on this list. But I'm not entirely sure, like I said, how my feelings are going to move. But all I know is I love those arcs. They just couldn't make the list. So that would be like 26, 27, 28. Or actually, no, I've just have them at number 26. They all mean similar things to me. So that'd be like my number 26. Is like a lot of that stuff from stuff that I've experienced in the last like 10 years that still hasn't fully like made its way onto this list. So those are honorable mentions. Starting us off here, number 25 is a classic to this channel. It is a section of the story that I've brought up multiple different times because I just can't get over the fact of how Naoki Urasawa did this particular stretch, and that is the Hanged Hill section from 20th Century Boys. 20th Century Boys, man, that's my jam. That was one of the first manga that I read after getting into this huge manga kick many years ago. But this stretch really stuck with me. It stuck with me for all of these years, right, for the past decade plus. And it's mainly because of the suspense during this particular section. Anytime that I'm writing any sort of material that has to include some aspect of suspense, or I'm thinking about what suspense feels like, I remember reading Hanged Hill in this very room at like 1 o'clock in the morning because I was so hooked on 20th Century Boys and I was paranoid. If you don't know, horror stuff doesn't really get to me. Games, movies, because I've been on the other side of the television production aspect of creating some sort of horror thing, that it doesn't really scare me because what I'm looking at is like the behind the scenes stuff. Really, the stuff that has terrified me in terms of horror-like elements has come from either novels and, in this case, from manga. And I don't know what it was when I was first going through this particular stretch in the manga, but I was just so paranoid. I remember going to the bathroom and I was just like checking everything. I was like, bro, this isn't even like it's supposed to be a scary story, but that's how the suspense was, man. I mean, it had me feeling like I was inside of the manga. And so in terms of suspense, I always think back to that Hanged Hill flashback section of 20th Century Boys. It's like how to do suspense 101, man. It's genius. So shout out to Naoki Urasawa. That is my number 25. Shout out to the Hanged Hill arc. Coming in number 24, we have the first of Nisio Isin's works here. So we have the search for Kurokami Medaka's succession arc from Medaka Box. This is going to be taking the theme of what it means to be a main character. I almost went with the Kumogawa incident because I love both arcs almost equally. But I went with the search for Kurokami Medaka's successor because I felt like I was so... By this point, I loved so many of the characters. And it sort of presented a situation where once you get through around like the midway section of that arc, you really don't want things to become fractured between our main crew, especially because this is the kind of story that's similar to like a Gintama or a Hitman Reborn, a Beelzebub, which this is taking the slot of that I normally would have given this to that legendary Beelzebub Academy Showdown arc. I instead gave it to Medaka Box this time around because the more I thought about it, the more I just appreciated the way that it took all of the elements from the comedic aspects of the story and it created an entire arc similar to like, well, I was going to bring up a Gintama arc, but we'll talk about it later. That similar to how like a certain Gintama arc does, that you bring in like so many of these elements that you've already seen throughout like the gag sections of the story, and just put them full face first for like the drama elements of it. And I just love the way that Zenkichi and Medaka both grow so much as individuals in this arc. And I think this is Kumogawa's finest hour as well, bro. My boy, he cooks in this arc. Obviously, in his arc, he was absolutely sensational. But there's just something about Kumogawa in this arc, man. It's just great. And the villain of this arc also is fantastic. And so it's a really special arc. And like I said, there's multiple different sections there of like what it means to be a main character, what kind of main character do you want to be. You are not alone. Like, there's just so many great moments here, but all around the idea of what it means to be a main character. And it's just a really, really good arc. And so shout out to the Succession arc in Medaka Box for that greatness, man. It's super, super good stuff. Following that up, we have another series that I have talked about at length, but I'm so glad I get an opportunity to talk about it because it feels like I haven't talked about it in ages. And that is D. Grayman's The Search for Alan Walker, coming in at number 23. The Search for Alan Walker is interesting, right? Because what you have in D. Grayman up until around chapter like 190 something is a way that the series was like you had the normal structure and formula that you were used to seeing from a series like this, and then it switched over to another magazine, and the shift in the way that the story was presented from that point forward was one that I welcomed with open arms. I already liked D. Grayman to that point. As a matter of fact, I probably could have put the Noah arc on here from like the original stretch of chapters. But once you get into the jump into the next magazine, whenever it turned into a tri-monthly series, I think it did, like it released like 4 times a year. And we get into the Search for Alan Walker stuff. What really stood out to me from this particular section, the reason why I have it on this list, is because of the way that it reveals information. That is the tagline that I placed for this one. There's so many reveals done in this particular stretch of chapters for D. Grayman that it sort of showed me how to make the reveal of information exciting to a reader, even when you haven't read a chapter in months. Like, we're talking about, there was a time I remember we were waiting for a D. Grayman chapter to drop for ages. I'm talking about those years, like Hunter x Hunter style. And then we got it, and then we got another one, like a couple months later, then another one, and then that momentum, and then we were getting information and information and information and information. All of it was just crazy reveal after crazy reveal after crazy reveal. What stood out to me the most is, like I said, even after not having reread the series to that point, right? It was just going off that first initial read through, and I tend to forget a lot of stuff. The way that information was presented to make it easily digestible, as well as exciting for me to want to get the next chapter to find out what else we revealed. That arc is really special. The Search for Alan Walker stuff, I mean, there's a lot of great stuff in there for a multitude of different reasons. You could even put this under the what it means to be main characters section as well. But the way that information is presented here, it was really, really inspiring, and I've actually taken inspiration from that. So shout out to The Search for Alan Walker from D. Grayman. That's some good stuff right there. Coming at number 22, we have Whoa, Coogie Punchy, the Cooking Festival arc from Toriko, man, and I have this under the tagline of excitement. This arc, the first read-through of Toriko in any capacity is extremely exciting, but once you get to the Cooking Festival, it truly takes it into another gear. There's so many great mysteries that are just unfolding throughout the course of the first 263 chapters of this manga. And then once it all pops off here, my boy Stajun and all of the great battle sequences that you get, it gets the adrenaline pumping. It's a great first read, and it's a great reread. It's just a fun time, man. So shout out to the Cooking Festival. I'll always have a lot of love for that arc. Coming in number 21, we have, oh man, I forgot this was coming up this soon, man. We have Riban! Katekyo Hitman Reborn with the Curse of the Rainbow arc. And what I wanted to talk about in regards to this particular arc is how to do character returns. Now, obviously, this isn't unique to this series. I think almost every series that gets towards its final stretch brings back a lot of its characters. What is unique to it from my lens is Hitman Reborn was the first of that era that I saw conclude, right? From the era of Naruto, Bleach, One Piece, Gintama, D Gray Man, you know, all those all of those manga. The first one that I saw conclude in real time was Hitman Reborn, and I'll never forget the excitement of having characters return that I was emotionally invested in from having followed the series. And the excitement that follows that, seeing certain matchups and interactions, those dreamlike scenarios, it sort of set up the standard from what I wanted to see from final arcs in some other of my favorite, you know, shonen battle manga. And so I have a lot of love for Curse of the Rainbow. I think it's a great culmination of a multitude of different ideas in that series. I think it's chapter 390 from that is one of my favorite chapters I've ever read. Coming out of Shonen Jump magazine, it's a really special chapter, and so it is. It's just a really not only nostalgic, but like I said, it was sort of like set the table for what I want from good character returns. And so that's why I have Curse of the Rainbow here. It's a super fun arc. Another good, extremely satisfying first read, but man, is it a fun reread. So shout out to Curse of the Rainbow. Coming at number 20, we have the two farming arcs. Vagabond's farming arc and Vinland Saga's farming arc. And the reason why I have both of them here is because I like the execution of a similar concept being done through two different artists' lenses. You know, the way that Vinland Saga executes its farming arc and Vagabond does its farming arc is it's very interesting, because viewing it from an extremely surface level, you could see a lot of elements that both of them touch upon in regards to the ways in which they're attempting to overcome the need and desire for violence and things of that nature, and substituting that with something else that gives them a sense of progression and a sense of purpose and a sense of meaning. In the ways that both Thorfinn and Musashi are able to come to those conclusions. But I think what I'm interested in more as a creator is the way that you can take a similar concept like that, especially when it's done so utilizing a sort of similar type of metaphor through the use of farming, but do it in very different ways, because those are two very different arcs, very, very different arcs. And so what excites me as a creator is to know that someone else in your field has created something similar, but with your voice and your style, you'll be able to provide something that no one else will be able to provide, even if someone else already created something that is under a similar type of umbrella. And that's something that really is accentuated between these two arcs. Like I said, two very similar yet very different arcs touching upon similar ideas and topics, but because of the different artists, the different characters, they're able to explore it in very unique ways. And it's honestly very inspiring, because, you know, sometimes you'll be thinking of something really cool, and then somebody else is about to release a book on it or release a series on it. It's like, oh man, I could have done that. You still can, because they haven't lived the life that you have. And that's something that I've learned thanks to stuff like the two farming arcs that we got here. And obviously, both arcs are incredible. The Vinland Saga farming arc is one of my favorite binging experiences that I've had. And the farming arc from Vagabond that I reread this year impacted me like a lot. I mean, it really hit home in a lot of different ways. And so I love both arcs for a multitude of different reasons, but it's mainly due to that execution of concept and how to do that in different ways. And so shout out to the two farming arcs from Vinland Saga and Vagabond. Coming in number 19, we've got, y'all know how much I love my train arcs. And not training, train. Whoop, I mean, you know what I'm saying? Train arcs. And the very best of the best is Detective Conan's mystery train arc. I was really thinking, which one do I want to include from Conan? Clash of Red and Black? Do I want to include one of the Kaito Kid arcs? Do I want to include the arc from the 800s that's slipping my mind right now, where with the roof quote, the Kyoto arc? Which one? There's so many great arcs. The Vermouth arc, like there's so many great arcs in Detective Conan. But I ultimately went with All Reliable, the one that I've reread and re-experienced the most. And that is the Mystery Train arc, man. It has everything that I want from Detective Conan. And I think it's in the name why I love this arc so much, and that is the mystery element of this. Mystery Train takes two things that I love and adore from anything. And that is an incredible execution of the short term while also paying dividends and payoff for the long term. This arc is so incredibly immersive in the short term. Somebody could turn on the TV, watch this arc, and they will be invested. But those who have been in it for the long run will be triple invested. Because at its core, you have the story of a bunch of different mysteries happening on this train that just cause it to be an extremely exciting page-turning experience. But on top of that, you have multiple different multiple different arcs popping off coming from other serious arcs that happened before. So I'm like, characters are returning, plot lines that were addressed like 200 chapters ago are now being addressed here. Then taking, like I said, with the Medaka box thing, stuff from the Gad arcs are now coming into full display here. All of my favorite characters in this arc is just the way that it ends. It goes above and beyond to paying off the mystery elements of it, and it does so in short-term mystery and long-term mystery. It's incredible, man. I love the Mystery Train arc, and I can't wait for Detective Conan to reach its end stages. Not because I want the series to end, it's most certainly a series that I really enjoy reading, and I never want any of those to end. But I am looking forward to seeing how something like this could potentially be done again, because it would have to be done in the end game of the series, just by nature of the way that the series is. And so I love this arc. It was tough, like I said, because Clash of Red and Black, man, I have a lot of great memories with that arc in particular. I remember staying up all night, dude. I went to work the following day on zero sleep because I stayed up all night watching Clash of Red and Black. So I have a lot of great memories with that arc, but I had to go Mystery Train because that's just, it's my jam, man, and I really, really adore it. So that is my number 19. Coming in number 18, man, going into an anime exclusive arc, and I was thinking between two series, but I ultimately landed on this one. We have The Rise of Lelouch v. Britannia from Code Geass Season 1, the first 25 episodes of Code Geass, man. And I have this very, like, right there with Mystery Train in regards to the template, the theme of page-turning mastery. Code Geass Season 1, when I first watched it, was like one of the most times that I've ever been locked in. Like I was locked in beyond belief of like how locked in I was to that first watch of Code Geass. And every time I go back and I rewatch this particular section of Code Geass, just like with Death Note, like I said, I was choosing between both of them, the first 25 of Death Note or the first 25 of Code Geass, because they're both super peak and they're peak in very similar ways. Honestly, I could throw Death Note in here as well. We'll do that spur of the moment, because both of them are just so special for the exact same reasons. It's that page-turning excitement where you can't stop going from episode to episode to episode to episode to episode. It's the York New City effect, man, and I love Code Geass Season 1. There's a lot of stuff that's very personal to me in regards to my tastes, right, and what I love to see in my anime, but it's also, I think, just a universal thing that, when you're invested and you can't wait to see what happens next, that's just a really cool feeling. And so I feel like Code Geass Season 1 just captures that to a T, and it's absolutely masterful. And so shout out to Code Geass Season 1, and like I said, Death Note's first 25 episodes as well, because they both just execute that concept to perfection. Coming in number 17, we have the first of two. Actually, no. I got this wrong. Yes, actually, no, I got it right. Number 17 is the first of two sections where we're going to be talking about introductions. The other one will be in a little bit. But this is my favorite beginnings or starts to a story, and those introductory arcs. And that is, of course, the legendary Nana, coming in here at number 17. The introductory chapters of Nana. Look at that. Start talking about Nana, my light almost went out. But the introductory chapters of Nana to me are extremely special. In Nana's case, I think they're really special because of the way that we spend so much time in both perspectives, right? With both Nanas. And then when we bring them together, we're bringing together all of the limbs of the tree that we'd already established from both perspectives. Now we have them together, and now we're seeing how both of them sprinkle together, and how that then leads into more consequences and more consequences and more consequences and more consequences. And what it leads to is every single time I go back and I reread or rewatch Nana, that first introductory section leads me to just rereading and rewatching the entire thing, because that's just how strong that first part is. This might not even be my favorite part of Nana as a whole, right? Like this Nana, especially in the middle and where we left off before the hiatus, fantastic stuff, man. But I think the thing that stood out to me the most from this series in regards to what I've been inspired by the most is the way that the introductory section was done. It's brilliant. It is how to start a manga 101, man. It is absolutely phenomenal. We'll get to another one, my favorite start to a manga here in a little bit. But it truly is something that I look back on as an incredible a piece of the story. And so, like I said, it may not even be my favorite part of Nana, but it's the one that definitely has inspired me the most from a creative standpoint, and just how to start off your story. So shout out to Nana, man, absolutely incredible. Before we get into the other intro, I actually have one in the middle here that I want to talk about, which is some of my favorite executions of time skips, and this is number 16. So I have a few series here, but I just want to say, when we continue here, you're gonna see a few more executions of those time skips that I will talk about. But I wanted to give a particular thing to some that I thought were really, really dope, and then when we get to those, then we can talk about it, because I just love time skips. I love time skips in general, and I love well executed time skips more than almost anything. I think the only thing that's like on the same levels as like rescue arcs. It's like rescue arcs, tournament arcs, time skip arcs. Those are always the most fun, right? So for me here at number 16, I have Tokyo Ghoul Re from obviously Tokyo Ghoul, Rockbird City from O Parts Hunter, and the second part of Tengen Toppa Gurren Lagann. I have these as 3 examples of time skips that I absolutely adored from 3 different perspectives. Looking at it first from Gurren Lagann's perspective, what we're seeing it is with the first season being like the rise of the hero, right? The rise of the individual who would become to be beloved as a hero, and then having to deal with the consequences of being a hero. And that stuff to me was really, really interesting. Sort of like Spider-Man 1 and Spider-Man 2 from the Sam Raimi films. That's why Spider-Man 2 is so interesting, because now he has to deal with what it means to be that, right? And that's how Tengen Toppa Gurren Lagann Season 2 feels like. Amazing anime, by the way. But that's why I love Season 2 of that series and the way that time skip was executed. Rockbird City from O Parts Hunter, man. Shout out to O Parts Hunter. But Rockbird City is what takes place right before the time skip, and I love the way that it gets to the time skip. So it's sort of like a great reflection on how to execute the time skip before it happens. Obviously, the time skip itself is super dope, but how they got to it was just so incredibly exciting and like, oh my flipping goodness, it is a real treat. And then Tokyo Ghoul Re takes sort of like both elements here and puts that into the final arc of the original Tokyo Ghoul and the beginning of Tokyo Ghoul Re. I love, and similar to Nana, I love the beginning of Tokyo Ghoul Re. It's not even my favorite part of Tokyo Ghoul Re. That one for sure is there is stuff and later on in that series that's absolutely sensational. but it is the stretch of the story that stood out to me the most from a creative standpoint, because of the way that they get to the time skip, and then the way that the mystery goes about at the beginning of Tokuguri is so exciting, man. You don't know what's going on. It's like you think you know what's going on, but then it's reveal after reveal after reveal, and it is another example of why I love time skips so much. And so I wanted to include these three here as an example as to why I love time skips. But like I said, we're going to continue to talk about time skips as we go through this list. But those are just three examples of time skips that I really adored from multiple different perspectives. So shout out to those three. Now we get to number 15, and this is my favorite introductory section in any manga. I love this part. Like I said, similar to Nana, when I go to reread the series, I reread the entire thing because that's how strong the introduction is. And that is my number 15, which is the introductory segment of Billy Bat, Naoki Urasawa's masterpiece, man. When this series was first releasing on a weekly basis, I was so locked in, man. I mean, obviously, based on the nature of the story, being on like the mangaka creation, storytelling, I was already immediately locked in. But the way that the first couple chapters goes and leaks into the mysteries of the narrative is so incredibly exciting. Just to paint a picture for y'all, the first two chapters in Billy Bat take place in the fictional world created by the main protagonist of the series. So it's in a completely different art style. It's in a cartoon-like art style, and it is so unbelievably cool. Because then what you start to see is when you leave the fictional universe of Billy Bat, which is the name of the comic, and you go into the real world and you start seeing how the elements that were present within the fictional comic are now starting to leak into reality. It's so cool, man. I love it. Like I said, maybe it's a me thing as a creator myself and how cool that is, but that just speaks to me, man. It really does. And I love the balance between the Billy Bat overall throughout the course of the entire manga. The Billy Bat sections with the real world sections because of the different art styles. You know, when we go into the Billy Bat verse, you have to go into the specific art style from the 30s and 40s, then obviously go into the manga like art style. But it's just, I love the way that the mysteries are balanced between both of those sections. And the entire manga of Billy Bat's sensational, man. But that first stretch, it just makes me want to read the entire manga. That's how good it is. That is how unbelievable that first stretch is. And it's a personal one for me, like I said. I don't expect everybody to feel the same way because it is a very unique introduction, but I just love it, man. Those first couple volumes of Billy Bat, man, they are so much fun, dude. And like I said, it is a special series. One of these days when we talk about my favorite manga just in general, I am very much looking forward to talking about Billy Bat because I'll tell you what, man, I thought 20th Century Boys would never be dethroned. We'll see when I make that favorite manga list, man. And in terms of like Naoki Urasawa works, 20th Century Boys has always been my top 5. Now I gotta make a choice between that and Billy Bat, bro. So shout out to Urasawa, man. He just makes nothing but masterpieces. I could have had a monster arc on here as well. God knows how many good ones are in there. But shout out to Billy Bat coming in number 15. Number 14, we have a tie under the umbrella of Culmination. And they are two sports manga that I just love the way that both of them ended. We have Haikyuu's final arc and the Shohoku versus Sano match from Slam Dunk. I love the way both of these series culminate in both of these final arcs. I haven't bought the final part of Haikyuu yet, but y'all see the final part of Slam Dunk here in all of my videos. I want to talk about Slam Dunk first because that was the one that I experienced first. Whenever, I guess this goes into the Nana conversation, my first go around in college, there was like a little library that I used to sit in every single day in the middle of classes and at the end of the day just to decompress before I went into work. And I read and watched so many anime and manga there. I mean, from like I said, Tokyo Ghoul to JoJo to Nana to Gintama. So many of my favorites I watched in that little cubby that I used to sit in my first go around in college, and one of those was Slam Dunk, man. In that run that I had where I read like 20th Century Boys, or I think it was like JoJo, Toriko, 20th Century Boys, JoJo, like I said, JoJo and Slam Dunk and Vagabond, like all just back to back to back to back to back to back to back, and it was just so much fun going through Slam Dunk in particular because I'd always been a fan of sports manga and anime. Like I'd gone through like the Ice Shields and the Kuroko no Baskets. But this one had me locked in like I was reading One Piece, man. I was like, bro, I couldn't wait to see what was going on the next page. And so Shohoku versus Sano is like, it truly is just one of the greatest things that has come out of Shonen Jump magazine. It makes you feel like you're experiencing the final battle of a manga, man. It is so intense, so incredible. The way that the Netflix adaptation did it was so marvelous because it truly does deserve it, man. It's a sensational part of this story and allows it to end on such a high note, man. It is special. It is really, really special, and it's a masterclass in how to culminate your manga at its absolute peak and then just leave it there. Haikyuu, very similar way, but very different. Haikyuu, went back to what we were talking about earlier with like Tokyo Ghoul. I love the way that its first section ends. And as we transition into the following section for Haikyuu, obviously on the international scale, it is unbelievable, man. And I just recently read this, and it's already this high. It's I read this like a couple years ago. And shout out to AJ. I was spamming him when going through it. And man, dude, I just this entire stretch in a sort of different way was a lot of fun to experience because you were seeing all of the individual character arcs culminating at the end of their respective journeys. And so what it allows is for these two sports manga to sort of be like ways in which I can look at like, oh, this is how you end a series that are like this. And it's sort of like a really good showcase into how to end your stories, which takes us into number 13, which is under the umbrella of endings. So once again, 14 is culmination, 13 is the umbrella of endings. And what I have here is Joe's final round from Ashita no Joe, Tomorrow's Joe, and What a Wonderful World from JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Part 6, Stone Ocean. Two endings that couldn't be more different, yet they mean exactly the same to me in regards to masterclass endings, man. How to end your story. Starting off with Part 6, one of the craziest endings and final sequences that you could ever possibly experience, man. It is unbelievable, and it only gets better with time. Only gets better with time for me. It is sensational how special that final stretch is. And that final chapter, man, when you, at least for me, I haven't forgotten from that day forward, not a single day has passed where I haven't been like, dang, man, the end of Part 6. Crazy. Like, bro, seeing that final image, this is Part 6 end, that thing sticks with you, dog. It sticks with you. And so it's one of those like, similar to like how a movie will make you feel like a certain image that really just sticks out to you. Part 6's ending is just filled with that. And Joe's final round, bro, the final stretch of Ashita no Joe, man, that is some peak right there, bro. And the thing is, they're so different in the way that, you know, JoJo's sort of culminating all 6 parts up until that point before we get ready for what happens after. But it's culminating so much up until that point, which in and of itself is extremely exciting. But with Ashita no Joe, it's more so the character. The journey of Joe Yabuki is coming to a close here before your very eyes. And the way that it's done outside of the ring and in the ring is just it's so special, man. It is so special. The other day I was reading Bakuman. Shout out to Bakuman. Y'all see it in all my videos. I love that series. But I was rereading the beginning of it, and I forgot that that Ashina Joe was brought up in the beginning of the manga as like one of the main central focuses of like what your manga should be like. And I couldn't agree more, man. That is, I think, a picture that mangaka should have on not even just mangaka, creators should have on their wall of like, yo, you should strive to create something like this, because that is a really, really special story, man. And it has one of my favorite endings that I've ever read in anime and manga, just like with Part 6's ending. And so I wanted to have those two here under the umbrella of endings as two magnificent final arcs that are incredible. I guess, you know, culmination and endings are very similar, but I think of them in different ways. And so much love and all love to those 4 arcs for what they provided and continue to provide as I think about them, and they inspire me to do what I'm doing now. So now coming in number 12, we have this is tough, man. This one was really tough because at the flip of a coin, this is a top 10 arc for me, and a section of anime and manga that just it's stuck with me for so long, man, for many, many different reasons. But today it's right here at number 12. Anything that's made this top 25 is special. But I feel like from this point forward, we're getting into like the ones that I can't even say that because the stuff I just finished talking about all means something to me. Like I said, all 25 of these really mean something to me. But coming number 12, man, under the umbrella of changing my opinion, is Return to Shiganshina and Marley from Attack on Titan, man. And I'll throw flippin' War for Paradise in there as well, bro. That entire final stretch from Shiganshina to the final chapter. Listen, man. In case y'all didn't know, back on the old channel, I was just like with Tokyo Ghoul, I was a certified Attack on Titan hater, man. I mean, if you may not think that is that you might think that I'm playing with you because of how much I glaze Attack on Titan now. But bro, when the series first started, I was not rocking with it. I really was not rocking with it, man. And it took quite some time for me to see the vision. You know, how do I put this? I enjoyed season 1, but I didn't love season 1, my first go around. And so it sort of turned me into a hater my first time around, where I was just like, man, I just don't rock with the series. And when season 2 dropped, my opinion started changing, where I was like, oh wow, I actually do really like the series. It was that it took like 5 years for season 2 to come out, but it was like a sort of reflection point, like, man, maybe I do like this series more than I thought I did. And by the time season 3 rolled around, I was a full-blown tard, man. Season 3 of Attack on Titan is one of the greatest things anime has ever produced. From top to bottom, it is non-stop gas, bro. It is unbelievable. But season 3, forever, I have as like the ultimate point of, if you don't rock with something, but you stick around for the journey, you may find something that forever sticks with you, that forever is with you, right? Because Return to Shiganshina, Marley, that entire final stretch, all of those arcs are really special to me, man. Return to Shiganshina, also in the great arc of culmination, also in the magnificent reveals, but it presents like the ultimate decision in a point where you are sitting there as the viewer sweating. Like, what in the world? Who are they going to choose? And you're sitting there, man, sweating bullets. As you get into then the stretch of the series that forever changes it completely. It with the basement stuff, and it's like, oh my god, it's just peak. And so from that point forward, then everything's changed. Then you go to the other side, and you get the time skip with Marley. Once again, time skips, I love them. And then everything that happens there is just so flipping amazing. And then you go from there and you get even more of the political stuff, and then you go into the incredible War for Paradise, and it's just, Attack on Titan. Bro, I'm telling you, I was like, bro, I want to put this in the top 10, man. That's how much I love it. But it's just, it was tough. It was tough with all these heavy hitters that I love so much. So shout out to Attack on Titan, man. Seriously, series that I absolutely adore. And it's under the umbrella of changing my opinion, man, because it truly was, like I said, I did not rock with Attack on Titan that much, right? Like, obviously, I watched it, but I didn't rock with it that much. And it was, I'm talking about a massive shift. It was like I went from just being a casual fan to being a hardcore tard. Where, like, from Shiganshina onwards, man, I was so locked in, bro, to both the anime and the manga. So, and I was just full-blown into it in the community. So I love Attack on Titan, and it's thanks to RTS and Marley that series is as special to me as it is. And obviously, like I said, in the final stretch. So shout out to those, man. Shout out to Attack on Titan, bro. What a special series. Shout out to season 3, man. Goodness gracious, bro. Coming at number 11, we have under the umbrella of shift. Meaning the series was one way before this, and now it transitions and becomes something completely different. There is another that we'll get to much, much later that executes this as well. But what I have here is Chihaya Furu, the section that is going to be season 4 in the manga content that takes place after season 3 in the anime, as well as Hajime no Ippo's 1000s, everything from chapter 1000 until now. What these two series have presented from, like I said, from season 3 onwards in Chihaya Furu and Hajime no Ippo's 1000s is a significant shift in the way the series was presented before that and after that. Chihaya Furu, to a lesser extent, because especially from a manga standpoint, it is presented very similarly, but the content within it and the characters within it, there was a notable shift, and it is insane. So in Chihaya Furu's side of things, I love the way that the execution of the shift in tone was done, because the shift in tone in what is going to be season 4, based on if y'all have watched Chihaya Furu and you saw that ending in season 3, y'all know what I'm talking about, man. Trust me, the tone. Hey man, listen, that tone shift, you feel it, dude. And I can't wait to see how Madhouse executes that in season 4. But in the manga after that, oh man, I mean, it's non-stop greatness from that point forward. But it's that shift in tone that is so incredibly fascinating to me. The way that they were able to take a series that is naturally extremely lighthearted and focus on like friendship and romance both like in a romantical sense of like individual to individual, but also romance in terms of adventure. So much of that is present in Chihaya Furu, and when it's just tone, oh man, it has like this dark. I love it. I love it when series are able to do this. And the way that this one in particular does, because it's Chihaya Furu, right? Going from like an extremely bubbly series to it's just, it's so cool. It's so cool. Obviously, it never loses itself, but I love the tone shift. And then with Hajime no Ippo, bro, the series is not the same series that it was the pre-1000s. from the changes in perspectives, the way that the story's being told, the way that the fights are done, everything feels like it's been endgame from chapter 1000 until now. And there's a particular event that happens post 1000s, in particular after the 1200s, that forever changes the series. And it's felt within every single facet of the story. And it's a really risky change, man. I mean, you want to talk about ambition. What George Morikawa has done with Hajime no Ippo since the 1000s have started has been one of the most ambitious undertakings I've seen in anime and manga, because of the amount of time is dedicated to it. There are people who have dropped the manga because of what happened in the 1200s and are just waiting for if things will go back to the way they once were. And obviously, with that very same stretch, he created diehard fans. One of them most certainly was me. I've always loved Hajime no Ippo, but that particular stretch in the 1000, like I said, in particular after the beginning of the 1200s, forever solidified it as an absolute masterpiece because of the way in which somebody who's already successful decided to completely change the shift and focus of his series, and has been on an extremely ambitious undertaking ever since. For years, man. I caught up to Hajime no Ippo in like 2014, somewhere on there, 2014, 2015, at the beginning of the 1000s. Bro, we have been in this for the last 10 plus years. And the man is still in this extremely ambitious undertaking that he started back then. It's crazy. It's crazy, and I have a lot of respect for him for that, man. And so shout out to the Chihaya Furu Season 4 content that's going to be Season 4. As well as Hajime no Ippo and its 1000s, man. Absolutely insane. Now we get into the top 10. Oh, man, dude. Just looking at these, brothers, and nothing but heavy hitters. This is our list, nothing but heavy hitters, man. But yeah, if you know me, you know what's going to be in this top 10. I'll put it to you that way. Let me get some water. Holy sweet mother of Flagnar. So, starting us off at number 10. And I can tell you, I own both of these in their entirety. In their anime, at least. Coming at number 10, under the umbrella of nostalgia, we've got Akira Toriyama's. And where is it at? We have got Akira Toriyama's masterful, wonderful, formative Cell Saga with Yoshihiro Togashi's masterful, incredible, formative Dark Tournament as my number 10. I am not sitting here in this chair if I don't experience these two arcs. I'll put it to you straight, man. I'll put it to you straight. They formed so much of my tastes in anime and manga. I was just saying anything in general. The Cell Saga, starting off with this, man. If you were to put together my total collective watch time on YouTube for how many times I have rewatched Gohan vs. Cell, it would probably take up at least 5% of my total YouTube watch time over the last 20 years. I have watched sections of the Cell Saga over and over and over again from the inception of whenever I started to get introduced to the internet and to browsing videos. The Cell Saga is so special to me, man. When I tell you, when I say real shonen, in the back of my head, I'm thinking back to the Cell Saga. Because it made me the moments merchant that I am. I think the Saiyan Saga and the Frieza Saga are much tighter arcs. I think that the Buu Saga has a lot of the similar elements to the Cell Saga, but it has a lot of the Frieza Saga in it as well. And if we're going back to the original Dragon Ball, there's obviously a lot of really tight arcs there with like the tournaments and Demon King Piccolo arc and all that stuff. It's just really, really good content that just showcases Toriyama's mastery as a creator. But where the Cell Saga means so much to me is just, it's what I love. It has so many great moments. Cell is my favorite character in Dragon Ball. So you already know I'm already there to begin with. But you have masterclass moment after iconic moment, after iconic moment, after iconic moment. Obviously, I'm throwing in the Android Saga here as well. So it's just that entire, from the future, from the moment that Trunks arrives to the finale of the Cell Saga is, come on, man. Come on, bro. I love that arc. Like I said, I'm here. I'm here because of that arc. So shout out to it. And then obviously the Dark Tournament, man. Once again, I talked about it with YouTube. If you were to put together my total collective watch hours that I have watched Dark Tournament in any capacity, streaming service, DVD, Blu-ray, or on YouTube or wherever, it would be a good percentage. Because I have gone through this arc a bajillion times. The Dark Tournament. The way that not only each battle is fought, not only the way that the stakes continue to raise and raise and raise and raise, but there's something that I've always loved about the Dark Tournament that is also present in stuff like the Chunin exams and other tournament arcs that really allow it to like take that next step, which is the conspiracy element cooking in the background. And I love that about this arc so much. The stuff that's happening in the background that then leaks into the stuff taking place within the tournament itself is so much fun, man. And obviously the stuff with Genkai, the legendary and iconic episode 47 with Yusuke receiving the power, bro. The dynamic between Toguro and Yusuke. The way you even get to the tournament in the first place. The Dragon of Darkness Flame. Kuwabara, man. Kurama going in with the Yoko Kurama. It's legendary. It's legendary. And like I said, I am sitting here today talking about real shonen because real shonen bled into my veins. So I have so much love for those two arcs, and they will forever, and I mean forever, be mainstay points in my favorites lists because they both mean so much to me. Just iconic moments, legendary reveals. I love shonen battle manga because of these two. So it's just fantastic stuff. So shout out to both of those. Both those series in general, but both those arcs for sure. For sure, man. So now on the opposing side of that, looking at a much quieter and I would dare say a much more personal inside look, are two arcs that are very different yet pretty similar. And that is under the idea of humanity, under the idea of the personal struggles that each person has to go through, as presented through the lens of anime and manga. I have the bully arc from Sangatsu no Lion, March Comes In Like a Lion, and the Lost Children arc from Berserk. Starting first with Berserk, this one was really tough for me to choose. The Golden Age obviously is an extremely important arc in the grand scheme of my journey as a fan of anime and manga. That's another one similar here to like one more, several we'll talk about later, and like what I just talked about with Dark Tournament and the Cell Saga. Another one of those, I may not be sitting in this chair if I don't experience that arc first. Golden Age is extremely important to me. And the Falcon and the Millennium Empire, you want to talk about culminating and exciting experiences. That stuff is peak, man. So like I said, this Lost Children may not even be my favorite section of the story, but it is the one that I've revisited the most and it's spoken to me the most when I'm going through a tough time. It is a really special part of this story. Coming off of the Golden Age, you want to see how Guts is in the present time, and when we cut back to the present, coming straight off of obviously the Black Swordsman before we got into the Golden Age stuff, but we get into the Lost Children section. You get to see the trajectory of the way that Kentaro Miura wants to take the story from that point forward. What we get is a really short but sort of just series changing arc here with Lost Children, and that sort of set the precedence for what Guts' journey would look like from this point forward, and his eventual relationships with the rest of his crew that he would continue to amass throughout the rest of the journey. It all started here, man. It all started with him reminding himself about the beauties of being with comrades, the beauties of being with other individuals, the beauty of being alive to be able to experience certain things like this, and it's just a really, really special arc, especially like I said, coming off of the end of the Golden Age with the Eclipse. I have a lot of love for Lost Children. I guess you could say it also goes into the umbrella of, I always like to see what artists do after they create like a legendary arc that's beloved by many. Golden Age obviously is one of the most beloved arcs in all of anime and manga, and I'm always interested in seeing what an artist does to follow that up. Like, what type of thing do they say? Because most of the time what they say is what really means something to them, and Lost Children really feel like came from the heart, and it came from Kentaro Miura's soul, and it's one that's resonated with me, like I said, in times of hardship, and so I will always have a lot of love for that arc. And then the bully arc, man, this is one that caught me completely by surprise when I was reading through or watching through the anime of Marsh Comes In Like a Lion. Already a very special series, tackling multiple different themes and elements that resonate. But once you get into this particular section and you're focusing on one of the other characters present within Marsh Comes In Like a Lion, but through the lens of the main protagonist, through Ray, it turns into a section of the story that is unlike anything else that the series has to offer. Like I said, the entire series is special, and I know there's a lot of individuals that the Fireburns part of this same season really means something to them as well. But this one has always meant something to me from that first watch through until all the rewatches I've done after, because of the elements that I can see from the creation side of things. You know, Lost Children from the personal side of things. The bully arc is more so of how to execute many of these elements that make a lot of these arcs special, but on a much quieter, much a smaller scale type of thing. Because what I felt going through the bully arc is what I felt going through like the large scale legendary like battles from like other series, similar to like what you would get from like talking about Berserk, like a Falcon of the Empire or something. It's that, but for a series as quiet and as emotional as Marsh Comes In Like a Lion. It's that shift, and because of that, the way that it's presented visually, the way that you feel it, it's an extremely important section of that story to me, and so I'll always have a lot of love for the bully arc from Marsh Comes In Like a Lion and the Lost Children arc from Berserk as well. Two extremely peak sections of those stories. Had to take off the jacket and get some water before we talk about this one, man. Coming in number 8 is the one that I've gone through the least out of all of these in the top 10. I think in the top 10, I have rewatched and reread all of these multiple times except for this one. This one I think I've only reread once, and it's all based off of that original first experience. Because that first experience was so special that it got it all the way up here to number 8. And there was no way I could leave it off. Under the umbrella of the experience, the reading experience, man, is the legendary, incredible Yasuhisa Ara's Kingdom, the Coalition arc, man. And right there with it was the most recent major arc that we got out of from the end of the 600s. I forgot what the name of the arc was, but the Western Zhao invasion, that arc was awesome too. Right there, man, right there. The thing about the Coalition invasion, though, is what was happening in my life around it, right? Like going from being at school and work all day, coming home in the wee hours of the night, and reading these with y'all at like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in the morning was so much fun, man. Incredible memories. And I'll tell you, dude, those are experiences that I think back to all the time of like, man, like when I retire from YouTube and stop, and One Piece is long gone, and I think back to my time as a YouTuber, one of the things that's gonna stick out in my mind is reading through the Coalition arc for the first time, because I'll just never forget how that experience was, the excitement shared between all of us here in the community as we were going through that arc together from chapter 263 until 365, whatever it is. We just had so much fun, man. And like I said, in what should have been an exhausting time of my life is one that I look back on with so many fond memories because of going through this arc in that time period that we did, man. It was a blast, dude. It was a blast. And like I said, The rest of the arcs in this top 10, I've reread or rewatched a bunch of times. This is the only one that I go off of that first experience, and I think I reread it another time. And actually, no, I definitely did reread it another time. And that's it, man. That's it. It's that first experience, bro. It was so legendary that it's all the way up here. And so shout out to Kingdom, man. I miss it. Obviously, a series that's really special to me. And it had to be here. It just had to, bro. That entire experience was so much fun. So shout out to the Coalition arc from the Kingdom greatness. So many great moments, so many iconic moments, and man, some of the most hype moments ever happened in that arc. It's so much fun. Coming number 7, we are gonna start our talk about connections, and that, of course, is going to start with the Fourth Great Ninja War, and the Pain arc from Naruto, man. For many years, I have exclusively put the Pain arc on this list, or Pain arc on this list, as my choice from the Naruto series. But as the years have gone on, and I've done multiple rereads, multiple rewatches, I also have to put the Fourth Great Ninja War up here as well. Might be my favorite overall in the series. And it's under the umbrella of Connections Part 1. Next entry will also be about Connections, but I want to talk about Naruto, man. And the reason why I chose these two covers is because I think that they are both very representative of why I truly appreciate not only just Naruto as a series, but these two arcs. What you have here is the Akatsuki with Naruto on top, specifically the relationship between Pain and Naruto, as well as the one here between Obito and Naruto. And the way that both of those are explored, the way that Naruto is able to come to the conclusions that he does in both of those arcs because of the experiences that he's had in all of the arcs leading up to it, and both on both sides, is something that really means a lot to me. It is a representation of the experiences and connections that you have made up until this point, is the reason why in the Pain arc's case, a miracle was able to occur. And in the Fourth Great Ninja War's case, that victory and the impending doom of a reality bending situation of, the Infinite Tsukiyomi was not able to take place through a miracle of sorts, right? Through the connections that were made, connections that transcend space and time in certain instances. These are two arcs that, obviously, from the Pain arc's perspective, it is an extremely nostalgic arc for me. That was the first arc that I ever read weekly. I'll never forget watching Shippuden we always talk about the 4 parts, the Daily Motion on YouTube, up until, I believe it was Hidan and Kakazu, or somewhere around there. Actually, no, it might have been a little before that, when I switched to the manga. And making the switch over to the manga just in time for the very first part that I was reading the manga was the Jiraiya and Pain stuff. Then we got to the Itachi and Sasuke greatness, because I consider all of that the Pain arc. And then we get into the Pain and Naruto greatness with the invasion. It's just so peak, bro. It is so peak. And it's I have compared so many of my weekly experiences to how I felt going through that the first time on a weekly basis. It was unbelievably fun, man. Unbelievably fun. And then during the Fourth Great Ninja War, obviously, that's whenever we started the YouTube channel. And I have a lot of fond memories of going through that stretch here on the channel as well. So not only is there a lot of fun memories there, but also as time has gone on and through like the rereads and rewatches, the themes in both of these arcs just really continue to resonate with me. And obviously, they have super awesome moments, real shonen moments. Naruto arriving in Sage mode is one of the coolest moments ever, man. And then obviously you have so many great moments in the Fourth Great Ninja War, but I think at its core, the thing that stuck with me throughout all of this time is the connections and experiences that Naruto made throughout the course of the entire series, allowed him to be able to not only reach the person that he was trying to reach, obviously at the end of the story, but also reach the other individuals before that as well. All of those connections paid off. And this just reminded me as in reality to also strive to make those connections as well, because it's thanks to those connections and experiences that a miracle can one day occur. And it's something that, it's a message that continues to resonate with me as time goes on. And so shout out to the 4th Great Ninja War, shout out to the Pain arc, to incredible experiences on their own that, on top of being extremely personal, make it here to number 7. Now coming to number 6. Man, oh man, dude. Now this is the part of the list that I would dare say changed the most. Where I was like, man, I don't know what I want to do here. I don't know which route to go here. The next 3, because the top 2 are pretty solidified, but from 6 to 3. It was a toss of the coin. I was like, I didn't know where I wanted to go. So coming here at number 6, we have an arc that I have spoken of endlessly here on the channel, man. An arc that means the world to me. An arc that I have reread and rewatched so many times, and is a particular stretch of a story that I love so unbelievably much. But this one in particular just means so much to me because of a personal connection that I have to what's being said within this particular section of the story. And then another section later on that touches me from a creative standpoint. And that is the Tsubasa Tiger arc from Monogatari, man. And I could even include Nadeko Draw as well, now that's been officially animated and not just in the light novel. But for the sake and purposes of keeping this just here on Tsubasa Tiger, this is my watch when I am feeling down in some capacity, and I would dare say alone, I guess you could say, in whatever scenario it is. This is always a great watch for me, because not only is it an arc about returning home, what home means, but it's also about finding yourself. And when you find yourself, you're able to find what home is to you, even in the midst of your greatest failure yet. And it's just a really, really special arc that speaks to me in many, many different ways. But I've gone through this many, many, many times, and I always take something else out of it. It's a really special arc in the anime. I love it just as much as a light novel. It's just so good, man. And so Tsubasa Tiger to me is a personal one. I know, like, I love Hitagi End, I love Ogi Dark. Like I said earlier, Nadeko Draw is right there with it. That's tied as my favorite. And then there's another one that happens later on in the light novel that I can't include because it's light novel only. But that one's also like right there in a 3-way tie for top 1. But Tsubasa Tiger is like the one that I've gone back to the most, and I just absolutely adore that section of the story. And so that is why that is here as my number 6. It's just super, super special to me, and one that I can always go back to whenever I'm feeling a certain type of way. And so shout out to Tsubasa Tiger coming in here at number 6. Now we get in the top 5, man. Like I said, man, this is tough, bro. This is really, really tough, bro. But coming in at number 5, we have, you want to talk about the most formative of experiences. I would not be here today if it wasn't for this arc. For sure, out of all of the things that I'm going to say on this list, this is probably the one that resonates with the most. There was a particular time where this one was one that I always thought about, like, man, I know this arc means a lot to me, but I don't know how much it means to me. And in the last like 10 years or so, I guess you could say, it's really hit home just how much this arc means to me, because of how much I've seen in other series that I find some sort of reflection point that leads back to this. But earlier this year, I played the Xenoblade series. And while going through that series, and in particular going through Xenoblade 2, the arc and thing that I thought of the most of why I love Xenoblade 2 as much as I do is my number 5 here, which is Tite Kubo's magnificent and incredible Where's it at, man? Here it is. A Wrong Car Saga, bro. Look at that. Old, fresh DVD, bro. A Wrong Car Saga, man. I am not who I am today if it's not for the Wrong Car Saga as a person and in terms of my taste in stories. This arc is so unbelievably special to me. I know it like the back of my hand in both the anime and the manga. Somebody could play an episode and I could probably start saying the words before some of the characters say. That's how many times I've gone through it. It is a comfort arc for me. I could sit down and watch it like The Office is for many people, or like Friends or something is for others. That is that for me. Even just this year, I've read it like twice. It's just when I don't feel like reading anything, I can read the Ronker Saga and or watch it, and it's been that way forever. But it's also just a really personal one too, because going through the first part of this arc where Ichigo's internal struggles, his struggles with failure, his struggles with who he is and his role in this world, and with this other side of himself that feels like is taking over himself, losing sight of who he is. So many of those elements just resonated with me at that age of when I first got into Bleach. Continues to resonate with me, honestly. And everything I think is cool is in this arc. From the Spanish music to the concept of masks representing what they do here, the fights, the Hueco as a concept, the super awesome final battle in this arc, the transformations. It's just, I'm not who I am today without this arc. From my tastes, similar to going back to the Cell Saga, with I know the way that I am, man, and I can forgive any type of either, bump in the road or whatever the case may be, as long as you pay it off with something memorable and incredible as a moment and or experience. And just like that was the case with the Cell Saga, and most certainly is the case with the Roncar Saga, the entire arc is not a 500 million out of 10 to me, but there are certain sections of this arc that is a 500 million out of 10 to me. And because of that, it has led to it always have been a part of my heart as a section of the story that just means so much to me. And this is saying something, that because all 4 Bleach arcs mean a lot to me, of the major arcs, right? The Subsu Shinigami and Soul Society Saga, can't even tell you how important and impactful that is for me. Fullbring, important. 1,000 Year Blood War, God, that's like right here with the Rocker Saga. But this is the one that I've always thought back to as like, yeah, that's mine. That's my arc, man. That is my arc, and that's always been my arc. And so that is why I have to put this up here. It is the most formative. That is in the word I have under there. The most formative arc from those early and impressionable years that shaped my tastes in stories, but also sort of propelled me into the person I am today. And so I have a lot of gratitude for the Roncar Saga and for Tite Kubo for having created that Bleach greatness. So shout out to my number 5, which is the Roncar Saga. Now coming number 4, man. Goodness gracious. We just go from greatness to greatness. You want to talk about experiences that forever change people, man. Coming in number 4, we have the first ever read through I ever did on the channel. For an arc. Before that point, I had always done like recaps or summaries. That's what I did for like Hunter x Hunter and JoJo leading up to this point. I'd done reviews for like One Piece and Naruto. I'd done reactions based on like requests and Bleach at the time. But this was the first time I read through an entire arc and then all of the arcs that followed and kept record of that for all to see, because that's just how incredible all this stuff was. Gintama's Final 4 comes in as my number 4 under the umbrella of Connections Part 2. Similar to Naruto, Gintama's Final 4. And even before that, because my favorite part of Gintama is from the beginning of episode 202 until the end of the series. Because from a creative standpoint, That is some of the most inspirational content I have ever experienced. It is such a fun watch and read because you don't know what's going to happen next. And you're establishing and building those connections. You are getting all of the gags. You're building towards this incredible final stretch that is incoming. And when it pays off, it's paying off full blown because now you've gotten all of the one shots, all of the episodes of the characters, and you're familiar with all the gags and all the relationships and dynamics and all of that. So when it's popping off in that final 4 stretch, Shogun Assassination, Pharaoh Shinsengumi, Rakuyo, and then Silver Soul, when it's popping off, it is popping off because you're invested. You are invested and you've been waiting for this, man. Shogun and Pharaoh Shinsengumi has always been really special to me because of what I just talked about, that it was my first read-through on the channel. Where, like before that, like I said, I was doing either talking about my thoughts on stuff and or just doing reviews. But that was the first one where recommended by the Gintama community I did an entire read-through of Shogun Assassination as that was going on. And if I was Shinsengumi, I reacted to almost that entire arc weekly. And it was just a phenomenal experience. The Shogun Assassination binge and the Pharaoh Shinsengumi weekly, peak experiences, man. Peak experiences. And obviously I followed into Rakuyo and Silver Soul. But this entire Final Four represents that idea of connections, just like with Naruto. The importance of those connections, man. And we see that in all 4 of these arcs, that all of this stuff meant as much as it did because of everything that happened beforehand, and because of that, the strength of the connections that Kabukicho not only allowed things to happen the way they happened, allowed the tragedies to hit as hard as they did, but from a creative standpoint, it just reminded me the importance of taking time. Even, I'm sure there must have been points where readers were saying to Sriracha, like, "Hey man, what are you doing, bro? Like, hurry up and get on with the story." But even with that, he stayed true to his vision, drew and wrote everything that he wanted to do. He grew so much as an artist from chapter 1 until chapter 704. And to the point where in the middle of his final arc, being rushed out of the door by Shueisha, he said, "Y'all can have this ending." Went off to create one of the most awesome endings that a Shonen Jump manga has had to offer. It is just an incredible story. Hideaki Sriracha's rise to being one of the most prominent figures in modern day Shonen Jump. It's a really special story. And Gintama obviously means the world to me. Y'all know this throughout all of these years. Shogun Assassination and Pharaoh Shinsengumi were my number 1 for many, many years. Many years. And so obviously through rereads and other stuff that's happened, it is now here at number 4. But trust me, I love it just as much as I always have. It's just the next 3 I love just now a little more than this Final Four. But shout out to Gintama, man. A special series, and super excited to once again go through the binge of my personal favorite season in anime, which is that Gintama 2015 season, man. Just nothing but peak, man. It's so unbelievably special. So that's why it is here at number 4. Top 3 time, man. Coming in number 3, under the umbrella of binges, we have the binging experience that I compare everything to. It is the premier binging experience. It is the one that I always think back to when I think back to that library and that section library, but also when I get into a new manga, I'm like, I hope that I can get even 100th of what I got out of the first time that I went through JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Part 7, Steel Ball Run's final stretch. I'm just going to call it the World of Stars and Stripes. From D4C to World of Stars and Stripes, that entire final stretch. Actually, we should go from Sugar Mountain, because y'all know how much I love Sugar Mountain. I almost put Sugar Mountain on this list. As a matter of fact, it would have been right there with Tsubasa Tiger at number 5. But I was like, it would be overkill to have 2 Steel Ball Run arcs in the thing. But y'all know how much I love this flipping manga. The final stretch of Steel Ball Run, the entire manga, is unbelievably special to me. Many different life lessons, many different It was tailor-made for me. But the final stretch, man, when I think about binging experiences, that's the one that sticks out of my head of like, oh, I compare all that to that. Everything from that point onward, I have compared to a binging Steel Ball Run. And in particular, that final stretch. Everything else on the planet Earth did not exist while I was reading through the final stretch of Steel Ball Run. It just didn't. That's how locked in and invested that I was. And I feel the same way when I go back and reread it. Just how special it is, man. Steel Ball Run, like I said in last week's video, I reread this every couple of years, just like I rewatch Hunter x Hunter every couple of years. And both of those series mean so much to me for many, many different reasons, but they almost, they show like a reflection of who I am at that point in time. And I think the one thing that's been beautiful about Steel Ball Run is I read through that arc, my first go around at a relatively young age. And even now, as I continue to age, all these years later, this final stretch hits me just as hard today, if not even harder today, as it did all the way back then. And it just goes to show that even though things may change, there are some things that stay the same. And what resonates with you, or resonated with you at a younger age, could potentially stick with you for life. And it just goes to show that what's present here in the incredible reveals and page-turning mastery and all of everything culminating in the character master classes and the speeches and the abilities and all of the peak that happens in this manga, or the entire manga, but specifically in part 7, in the final stretch. All of that stuff is just so incredibly peak to me, man. It's so much of what I love about anime and manga in an entire manga, the whole 95 chapters, but specifically in that final like 40 to 30 chapter stretch. It is so special. And like I said, I compare all the binging experiences that I've had from that point onward to that one, because nothing else existed. I binged all of Steel Ball Run in like 3 days the first time I read it, and I can't even tell you, when I got to the last stretch, that was a day for sure. That was a legendary experience. So that will always be special to me. So that's why that's here at number 3, and I can't wait for the anime to get to that stuff so that anime onlys can experience. Even though due to the, I'm gonna assume it's gonna be weekly. I'm looking forward to seeing how I actually experience that weekly is in comparison to the binge. I don't know what that would feel like. But I can only speak from the nature of the binge. And the binge for me, anytime, either on a first read or on the rereads, has always been peak. So shout out to Steel Ball Run, man. Such a special series to me. And like I said, it's been a very personal series for me. But it's also just in a sense of enjoyment. It's always just been just a great read. Now we're getting to the top 2. Like I said, I always knew this was going to be the top 2. I just didn't know the order. I have been going back and forth on this for so long, man. So long. I was like, I don't know what I want where. But I know these are the top 2. These are tied in my heart, honestly, as number 1, but I had to give the edge to one of them. In one slot, I have 3 arcs that represent one series. In another slot, I have 1 arc that represents another. Man, this is even tough now, even though I have the rankings here. But both of these, when I tell y'all they mean the world to me, man, they mean the absolute world to me. Coming in at number 2, representing my favorite series, representing my favorite manga, representing my favorite overall experience, are 3 arcs that have represented multiple different parts of the journey that have made me the man that I am today. From Ichiro Oda's absolutely incredible and magnificent best-selling manga in history, we've got what I like to call what I like to call Wa Ma Wa. Wa Ma Wa. Wano, Marineford, and Water 7. It's my third favorite One Piece arc, second favorite One Piece arc, first favorite One Piece arc. Right next to each other. Wa Ma Wa. Let me explain to you why all three of these arcs mean as much as they do to me. Starting off with Water 7 at number 3. Water 7 made me want to undertake the journey of wanting to become an author, because I wanted somebody else to feel what that arc, Water 7 Enies Lobby, made me feel. And any time that I go back and I need a referential point towards why it is that I decided to become a creator in the first place, I always think back and go back to Water 7 in either the manga or the anime. I think for my for what I look for in anime adaptations, the Water 7 anime adaptation, just Water 7, because I have a few problems with the Enies Lobby adaptation, but the Water 7 adaptation to me is the single greatest adaptation that One Piece has to offer for my tastes. For my tastes, Water 7 is perfect in its anime form, and it's one that I always go back to and revisit as like just a reminder of, like I said, not only why I decided to undertake the journey of becoming an author, but also a great reminder as to why this series means as much to me as it does. And because this was the most recent anime content that was around whenever I started catching up to the series before I transitioned to the manga. And when I transitioned to the manga, we got into my number 2, which is my single favorite stretch in any anime and manga, which is the stretch from Sabaody to Return to Sabaody, represented by Marineford. That entire Paramount War stretch is represented to me by Marineford as the ultimate culmination of everything up until that point. An unbelievable, just everything going to this one central point that makes it so incredibly exciting. You just can't stop flipping. It has the page-turning excitement. It has the culmination excitement. It has the time skip stuff that I love so much, and excellent stuff before the time skip, and then the time skip itself. That's my favorite time skip ever. And it's just banger after banger after banger after banger. You're talking about Sabaody, legendary. Amazon Lily, super fun. Impel Down, legendary. Marineford, all-timer. Post-Marineford, all-timer. Return to Sabaody, all-timer. It's like, bro, man, peak. So I love Marineford, man. Y'all know how much I love Marineford. I talk about it all the time. But it is a really special stretch of the story to me, because when I think about... So I'll give you an example, right? For many, many years, whenever I would catch up to a brand new series that I was really enjoying, and I was like, man, I don't know, bro. This could challenge One Piece, right? This could be up here as a number 2 candidate. I always thought about Marineford, and I was like, well, One Piece has Marineford. This other series doesn't. So it's like, well, yeah, too bad, you know? But on a serious note, it's just a really special section of the story, and anytime, I think it's a required read. I think if you are a human being who breathes oxygen, you have to experience the Sabaody to Marineford stretch in your life. You just have to, bro. I think it's that universal and peak. There's a reason why it was the most popular series in Japan that caused such a massive boom at the time. Because it was such a simple concept. A brother trying to save his brother. Anybody can get on board with that, even if they've never heard of the series before. There was a bunch of people who I'm sure have never watched One Piece before, and they hopped on for that stretch. When we went through the TV ratings a few years ago in a Recon's piece, we saw how the TV ratings exploded during Impel Down Marineford, because it's just a simple concept, right? Brother tries to save brother. And all the stuff that is it just included into that simple concept that makes it flourish, and all the characters, all the connections that are made. It's a culmination of so many of these ideas that we brought up here, brought into fruition and represented throughout a single stretch. So special, man. Like I said, Water 7 means something to the heart, for wanting to create something the way that that made me feel and make other people feel that very same thing. Marineford, from a personal enjoyment standpoint, you just can't, man. It's too peak. It's too peak. But then we get into Wano. And let me tell you, man, pre-Wano, I remember I was asked the question, I believe it was by Hazy. It was like, what can Wano ever surpass Shogun Assassination to you? And I was like, I don't think that's possible. But I'm open to that being the shot, or that being the case. Wano for me was the most beautiful weekly experience that I've ever had the pleasure of going on, because it allowed me to, for the first time since I was a kid, finally step into the shoes of childlike wonder that I felt while going through the Cell Saga for the first time. The sense of having never experienced anything that would go after DBZ. Experiencing Wano every week was like, it was like a birthday present every day, man. It was just, I had so much fun from chapter 909 until 1057. It was the most fun I have ever had reading anything. From the chapters themselves, to the experience that we had in the community, to the conversations that we had. So some of my favorite moments ever take place in this arc, from the Roof Piece stretch, to the G5 stretch, to the Odin flashback stuff. It is so much of that just means an incredible amount to me. I will never forget, right after the beginning of the Odin flashback, One Piece Stampede came out. And up until that point, as I remember, Gintama was my favorite. It dethroned One Piece for a few years. And I remember going to watch Stampede with all of my friends in a theater filled with a whole bunch of other One Piece tards. Not fans, tards. We were all full-blown tards in there. And it's my favorite theater experience I've ever gone to. Not in terms of the movie. The movie itself is just, y'all know Stampede. It's just a regular anime movie. But the theater experience was so special to me, and my favorite theater experience ever, because it reminded me why I'm doing all of this in the first place, which is to share in this community experience with all of these other individuals who also think this stuff is dope, but on a scale in which all of us were like watching like a sports team. It was crazy, man. I've been to a lot of wrestling events. I don't think I've ever heard it as loud as it was when we were watching Stampede. And we were all in there, bro. It was crazy. Like, all of us were going nuts for everything. And it was just, it reminded me like why I love One Piece. You know, it's not about the quality. It's not about the stuff that I'm expecting to see or any of that stuff. It's because it's One Piece, man. It's because of the characters. It's because of the themes. It's because it is One Piece. And I remember coming out of that theater being like, this is my series, man. I can't deny it any longer. And from that point on, it's been number one once again. And Wano only further incentivized that, where going through that arc, it was just like similar to like the Rancor saga. There was just so many moments that I felt like just spoke to me so much, just in terms of personal enjoyment. Where, like I said, it just put me in the seat of being a kid again and being like, man, I'm not looking at this anymore. Like, Wano's really when it shifted. And I no longer looked at One Piece as like an anime or manga, more so just as like, just an experience, something that was there, like a family member I could speak to on a weekly basis. I no longer looked forward to the chapters in terms of it being, you know, could it be a good chapter or a bad chapter? From that point on, it was just thankful for being another One Piece chapter. And it was just such a fun time. And because of that Wano, that shift that happened during Wano, both the anime and the manga, man, I was locked into both the way I have never been, and I haven't been since. And trust me, I love Egghead, and y'all know how much I'm loving Elbaf. Elbaf could be top one. But there was just something about Wano that spoke to me personally, and my own tastes in this. And maybe it was just right place, right time, but I just loved Wano, man. And anytime I go back and rewatch certain episodes, I'm reminded of it, man. Because sometimes this thing lies to you, bro. This thing has lied to me on multiple different points, because what I'm feeling here is not what I'm feeling up here. And most of the time I listen to what's here. Because sometimes, man, you'll go, especially during Wano. You'd be like, man, this shouldn't be hitting me as hard as it is right here because I'm following this. But when I'm following this, Wano's the best, man. Wano's the best, bro. And I love it. I really, really, really love it. And so, similar to the Rancor Saga, the bumps in the road don't even compare to all of the wonderful and wondrous memories that I have of reading that arc on a weekly basis. And so, I'm feeling the same way about how much fun I've been having with Elbaf in this particular stretch. So, shout out to One Piece, man. Y'all know how much I love this series, and it was tough, man, between this and number one. But ultimately, I had to make the decision that this is 3 arcs against 1 arc. So, if we're having the conversation of 3 arcs versus 1 arc, I was like, well, and if the 1 arc's gotta go at number 1 because it's only 1 arc. So even though it's probably the size of like 5 arcs, but so that is my my number 2, man. Shout out to Wamawa once again, Wano Marineford and Water 7 as the 3 there. Put these back real quick. So now, man, coming into number 1, bro, I'm sure you could take a guess as to what it is, and I'm sure you're probably thinking of why it could be. But those of you who know me know exactly why this is, and excuse me, and for those of you who don't, allow me an opportunity to be able to explain why this arc is my number 1 and has been my number 1 for quite some time. It is Yoshihiro Togashi's once again. His incredible, masterful, unbelievable Chimera and arc. This arc, I know that on a large scale, it most certainly is appreciated for its quality. And it most certainly is appreciated for what it did for the series going forward and for how unique it is within Shonen Jump magazine. But today I'm not interested in talking about its quality. And I'm also not interested today in talking about why it is that this arc is as special as it is. Today I only want to talk about why this arc is special to me. When I first started doing YouTube, starting off only with the big 3 and then Kill La Kill came later. Like I've said many times, there was that one dude who was like calling out to Roger for the One Piece. Like, yo, you should watch Hunter x Hunter. And I remember doing those review videos, you know, as I watched every arc, as I was going through Hunter x Hunter because I was having so much fun. But once we caught up to Chimera Ant, that was my first time post Big 3 that I was enjoying something as much as those 3. And having all 4 of them at the same time was unbelievable, man. Experiencing 3 big 3 chapters and a Hunter x Hunter episode on a weekly basis might be the peak. That might be my peak, man. I will never, ever forget the weekly experience that was the Palace Invasion, man. Gosh. Everything from the Dragon Daivu and the memes following that to the incredible episode 116 and how that experience was. Episode 122, because I was anime only at this point. Then after episodes 125 and 126 with the incredible Maru Monero stuff, going into the manga because I couldn't wait anymore. Then with the phenomenal binge that I had after that, bro. To to episode 130 and 131, masterclass of an adaptation. And then to the incredible ending. But the thing is, we look at those big moments, I think back to a lot of the small moments too. I remember when the Ikalgo episode dropped, and I rewatched that like 6 times, bro, because I just really liked that episode. The Wellfin episode. the stuff with Poof or you. That first experience was so special to me in ways that I was trying to comprehend because I didn't understand. I didn't understand why it was this was speaking to me as much as it was. But it meant so much to me, bro. And I was like, man, this is unbelievable. Like I really love this. And then I remember going on a rewatch a little while after that Hunter x Hunter 2011 ended. And when I reached Chimera Ant again and going through all that stuff for the first time in I think it was like a year or two, the stuff that was really, really, really hitting in that particular rewatch was the Komugi and Meruem stuff. And that forever changed my sort of like the way that I tackle, the way that I create my stories, the way that I looked at life, as well as my tastes in just consuming entertainment in general. Because I found out a lot about myself in that rewatch of Chimera Ant. Because what I noticed was I was more invested in the Komugi and Meruem plotline than I was anything else in that rewatch. And it made me really take a look back and be like, man, maybe there's something here in the romance element that is really sticking out to me in ways that I really can't understand. And what I found out was that it was the romance and rivalry. A video I still want to make one day is why that is so fascinating to me as a concept. But this idea that, you know, in a lot of rivalries, that most of the time doesn't lead to romantic situations because of that not being the point of the story, right? The most of the rivalries that happen within a multitude of different stories is just to lead both of them toward the point that they're trying to get to, but they can't get to that point without the other. So when you add a romantic element to that, it's adding and something to what's already really beautiful in rivalries. You know, having a rival that you can compete with to get to the very best that you can possibly get to is already a really beautiful thing. It's already romantic in and of itself. But then when you add like actual romance between two individuals, in the midst of that, it like sort of unlocked a new meshing of genres in my head that sort of like forever changed the way that I looked at stories. Because up until that point, I remember thinking about the story that I was going through at that time. But man, this doesn't really fit in one genre. And everybody that I was talking to from within the book publishing industry was like, yeah, you got to have it inside of a genre and this and that. But I couldn't really find a genre to put this under. And what I find out with that rewatch of Chimera Ant is that that sometimes the heart has a lot more to say than sticking under a particular genre. Because all of this is still under the battle shonen quote unquote like umbrella. But there's so much that's explored here, and in particular the way that the information is presented. Because halfway through the Chimera Ant arc, it was already a narrator heavy series, but right before Palace Invasion, it really became focused on the narration. And that in and of itself was an extremely interesting thing that I've taken into consideration from a storytelling element. But it was just that Komugi and Meruem thing that just forever stuck with me. As on the first watch, it was something that really meant a lot to me. And of course, on the read, chapter 318 is one of my favorite chapters of all time. But on that second reread, it sort of, or on the first reread, it sort of allowed me to understand why it is that I rewatch and reread so many of my favorites, right? And it's led me to continue to do so. Because I can find out so much more about myself and about the things that I'm interested in. And I just, that Komugi Meruem stuff to me is just so unbelievably special. The way that Meruem starts off as this individual with grand ambitions, and he's changed by the idea of number one rivalry and number two romance is so interesting to me. Similarly, Komugi, same way. Fascinating in like a Tem style, being the queen of games, and just wanted to have a fun time in that regard. Found something even more beautiful than that. She saw something even more beautiful than that, even though she was blind. I had stuff like that really spoke to me, man. And then that's at the very top. Then you bring in the sub layers of like the Killua stuff, the Gon stuff, the Royal Guard content, all of the individual Chimera ants. And it's just like, bro, what you have a recipe for is just an arc that every time I rewatch it, every time I reread it, I always get something different out of it. And I always get a brand new appreciation out of a different aspect, of a different perspective of it. It is a really long arc, and I'm pretty sure for a lot of people who read that arc weekly, they may not think about that, about this arc in the same vein that I do. But it's a really personal arc to me, man. It's one that I always look forward to rewatching and rereading because it impacts and touches upon everything that we've talked about here on this list so far, while at the same time providing hits for me on all three sides. Just like what I talked about with the Wama Wa, and how all three of those hit like, you know, the personal experience, the personal enjoyment, but also the personal impact, as well as the creative impact. This one hits on all of those, bro. And it's an enjoyable watch. It's an addicting watch, but at the same time, it's one that at mid-episode I could pause, go out and write for a couple hours, come back, pick up where I left off, and it's like I'm back in 2014 again, man. And it's just, it was so incredible, man. And I owe so much to this experience. I don't know if I would have ever changed the channel to be what it became, what it is now, if it wasn't for experiencing the Chimera Ant arc. Because who knows? You know, after experiencing York New City and Great Island, which I created those reviews and had a blast with it, I don't know if after that I would have gone on to Steel Ball Run, or I'm sorry, JoJo, or if I would have gone on to Vagabond after that, or if I would have gone on to Toriko after that, or would have gone on to all these. It's thanks to Chimera Ant where I was like, man, I really got to see what a lot of this medium has to offer. And it just led me on a search to find other things that can make me feel what like One Piece makes me feel, what Naruto and Bleach and now Hunter x Hunter. And it was like an insatiable quest to go out and find other stuff that made me feel the way this stuff makes me feel. And I owe so much of that to Chimera Ant. And then on the YouTube channel side of things, it forever changed everything, bro. Like going out and that experience, because at first I was like, yeah, I might only be able to do that with like the big three and stuff. I'm already so emotionally invested that just getting into Hunter x Hunter and having that phenomenal weekly experience of Chimera Ant forever changed everything. Where I was like, oh man, I could have this with other series too, and it was just something I'll never forget. And like I said, that was the first experience. All of the rereads and rewatches after they've just hit home on so many different levels. And man, shoot, McMahon, Knuckle, the characters, the moments. It's just like I've said, bro. Everything throughout the course of this has led to this point, and just what you can't help what you love. And that Chimera Ant arc is most certainly like similar to like what I talked about with Xenoblade 2 earlier this year. It's so many elements that I love in my stories put together in one thing that just allows it to resonate and sing with the pits of my heart and all the things that I've experienced and have experienced since then, that allow it to continue to sing, to be as incredible as it is for me. It's an inspiration. It is a beautiful piece of art, but it's also something that just I enjoy watching. I enjoy reading. Even if I wasn't an author, even if I wasn't a YouTuber, this arc would mean so much to me just because I enjoy watching it. I enjoy reading it, even after all of these watches and read-throughs. It's just a great section of a story, man. And I love the shift. It's so good. It's so good. So shout out to Chimera Ant. That has been this list. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate y'all. If you have made it to the end of this video, please let me know. And in the comments down below, I look forward to seeing everybody leave their arcs. And I will see y'all next time. Shout out to all of these arcs on this list and all the ones that I wasn't able to mention because I either forgot about them and or I didn't know how to name them. So I will, see y'all next time. Thank you so much for watching. Take care. This has been the Tuesday installment this week. I will see you on Friday for some more One Piece. But until then, take care and have a blessed one, man.